My daughter called me on a cold Thursday morning and said something that made my heart stop. Dad, we sold the house last week. We forgot to tell you. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. For 6 long seconds, I said nothing. Then I calmly replied, "Drive safe, sweetheart." I hung up, walked into my garage, and opened a small metal safe I hadn't touched in 20 years. Inside was something my daughter had completely forgotten about. And by the end of that day, the people who thought they had taken everything from me were the ones begging me to answer their calls. My name is Richard, and that house was never just a house to me. I bought it when my wife, Margaret, and I were young. We raised our children there. We celebrated birthdays in that kitchen, cried in those bedrooms, and sat together on the porch every Christmas morning. When Margaret passed away, the house became the last place where I still felt close to her. As I grew older, my daughter Claire began helping me with bills and paperwork. At least, that's what I thought. She often told me, "Dad, don't worry. I'll take care of everything." I trusted her. Then one morning, she called. "Dad, we sold the house last week. We forgot to tell you." I felt something inside me break, not because of the money, because they had sold the place where their mother had spent half her life, and they hadn't even considered telling me. I sat quietly at the kitchen table. 6 seconds passed. Then I said, "Drive safe, sweetheart." I ended the call. Claire probably thought I was too old, too tired, or too heartbroken to fight. She was wrong. I walked into the garage and pulled an old wooden box from behind a cabinet. Inside was the key to a small safe. I hadn't opened it since Margaret died. The safe contained an old property agreement, several letters, and one document Margaret had insisted I keep. Years earlier, when our family finances were struggling, I had placed part of my savings into a protected family trust. The house had been transferred into that trust years before. Claire wasn't the sole owner. She couldn't legally sell it without my authorization. I called the attorney who had helped us create the trust. After reviewing the paperwork, he said quietly, "Richard, they may have sold something they didn't have the authority to sell." For the first time that day, I smiled. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the truth. The next morning, the attorney contacted the buyers and explained the situation. Everything stopped. The sale couldn't proceed normally. Claire called me 12 times. I didn't answer. Then my son called. "Dad, please. We didn't mean to hurt you." I finally answered. "You didn't hurt me by selling a house," I said. "You hurt me because you decided my memories didn't matter." There was silence. A week later, Claire came to my apartment. She looked exhausted. She sat across from me and started crying. "Dad, I'm sorry." I looked at her for a long time. Then I handed her one of Margaret's old letters. It said, "A family isn't measured by what it owns. It's measured by what it refuses to take from one another." Claire lowered her head. The house was eventually returned to my control, but I didn't keep it. I sold it myself and placed the money into a trust for my grandchildren, with one condition. No one could touch it without everyone in the family knowing. I moved into a small apartment. It was quiet. It wasn't the house where I raised my children, but for the first time in years, it felt like my life belonged to me again. And I learned something painful. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't hurting the people who betrayed you. It's taking back your dignity and refusing to become like them. That night, I stood by my window and whispered, "Margaret, I finally understand. Some people think losing a house means losing everything. It doesn't, because walls can be sold, furniture can disappear, money can be replaced, but your dignity, once you give that away, getting it back is the hardest thing in the world." And that was the one thing I refused to lose.